Storybox presents Mozzles on the Farm. There was always plenty to do on the farm. Eric and Andy were busy tidying away the straw in the barn. Suddenly they noticed something floating through the air. It was a sort of round ball, bright yellow like the sun. "It's a bubble," Eric said. The two boys stared at the bubble. Then they heard something moving and scratching in the corner. Suddenly, a hand, 2 ears and a nose popped up from behind the straw. And then there were bubbles everywhere. Andy said, "What is it?" "Look," said Eric. "There's another one." "They look like the baby Mozzles in that story Granny told us." "Can't be," said Andy. "Mozzles don't exist." The baby Mozzles ran out of the barn at top speed. One Mozzle jumped on Loppy the rabbit's back. Loppy seemed to think it was funny. The second Mozzle began juggling eggs. The chicks looked surprised. Eric could not believe it. "Wow! So Mozzles do exist! And they're really naughty!" Andy laughed. "And they make bubbles all the time!" The baby Mozzles' bubbles floated up into the sky. Andy said, "Look out! There's Dad! If he sees the Mozzles, he won't let us keep them." Eric and Andy caught hold of the two babies. "Come on, let's hide behind the tractor." "Shh!" Eric, Andy and the Mozzles stayed very quiet. They heard Dad calling.
"Boys, are you there? Where are all these bubbles coming from?"
Then Dad left. Phew! But the baby Mozzles were looking sad. Andy said, "Do you think they miss their mum?" Eric sighed. "Oh, maybe, but we don't know where she is." "Let's give them a bath. They will like that." The baby Mozzles jumped into the water and splashed around happily. Andy took some chocolate out of his pocket. "Are you hungry?" he said. "Do you want a snack?" The baby made a face and pushed away the chocolate. Eric grabbed the soap and said, "Come on, I'll scrub you clean." Suddenly, crunch! The baby Mozzle bit into the soap. "Yuck!" said Eric. "That must taste disgusting." That was enough messing around. It was time for the Mozzles to go to bed. Eric and Andy filled a cardboard box with hay for them. Eric cut some pieces of soap for them to suck on. He said, "These are for you, since you love soap so much. Sleep well, little Mozzles." Suddenly, whoo! They heard a long, terrifying scream coming from the woods. Eric felt his heart beating like a drum. "What's that?" he said. The baby Mozzles jumped out of their box and ran off. "Come back!" shouted Andy. "It might be dangerous!" But the baby Mozzles didn't listen. They ran towards the woods as fast as their little legs would go. The boys ran after them. Suddenly, the baby Mozzles stopped. They looked up at a tree. What could they see? The scary sound came again. Whoa! Andy said, "It's coming from that tree!" The baby Mozzles scrambled up into the branches of the huge tree and disappeared among the leaves. "Oh no!" cried Andy. A great big bubble floated out from the branches. Eric said, I think they found their home. And their mum too. The two children stared in amazement as the mummy Mozzle slowly and carefully climbed down from the tree. Her babies were clinging to her fur. She held out her long hand to Eric. Eric gently put out his hand to her. I think she's saying thank you, he whispered to Andy. But Andy was worried. Will we be able to play with them again? The baby Mozzles seemed to understand because they took a deep breath, puffed out their cheeks, and plop, plop, plop. They blew little bubbles at the boys. The bubbles were heart-shaped. Eric was happy. He said, So you agree? We can come back and play with you. Andy said, And we promise to bring plenty of soap. The end.